One experimenter of EVP is Vicky Talbot, who lost her son Braden in a boating accident in 2001.
Okay, I'm coming down into Wildcat Cove right now, which is the cove that my son departed from and did not return.
Ever since then, she says she can record and recognize his voice using this digital recorder.
Well, that's Braden. What has really convinced me is the way he speaks, the stress, the intonation. Sometimes he sounds exactly as he did in life.
Happy New Year.
He will use certain phrases that we used to use. He will say certain things that will identify himself as the person that he was in life. I am convinced, personally, that I am communicating with my son.
But even this conviction can't make up for the unbearable burden of losing a child.
These just make me want to cry, just looking at him. What matters is the love that you have for your family. That's what really matters, and not to screw it up, and to remember they can be gone in a flash. You know, these other people, I feel so sorry for them because they have no way of communicating with those that they have lost. And they go around thinking, if only, if only, if only. I don't have to think that. And that's a good thing.
Marcello Bacci amazes visitors and scientific investigators who say they can hear the dead speaking through his old vacuum tube radio. This extremely rare form of mediumship is also called direct radio voice, or DRV, and is virtually unknown to the public. With it, experimenters believe that two-way conversations with the dead are possible. The walls are littered with pictures of dead loved ones. Parents clearly recognize the voices as belonging to their departed children.
Io sono certa che è mio figlio così come le altre mamme, perché i ragazzi quando si presentano prima chiamano la mamma, il nome della mamma e poi il loro nome. A parte poi che la voce è quella di mio figlio, l'ho già detto, quindi è inutile che lo ridica. La mia vita è la nuova vita, io dico sempre la vita di prima, poi si è fermata quando lui se n'è andato e ricominciata quando l'ho sentito, diversa.
Using software endorsed by the FBI, Il Laboratorio have conducted voice print analysis. Like a fingerprint, a voice print is unique. It can therefore be used to determine someone's identity with near certainty. They compared voice prints from two audio samples. One was the voice of Chiara Lenzi, recorded before she died. The other came out of Bacci's radio after her death and was clearly recognized by her father. The comparison produced a 97% match. Despite this startling evidence, skeptics claim that the voices could be faked by transmitting them from a remote location. But Dr. Emanuele Toriello, who has been investigating Bacci for decades, believes this is impossible. Dr. Toriello was present during key scientific experiments that he says eliminated any possibility of remote transmission. One of the first of these experiments involved putting Bacci's radio inside a special device that shields it from all radio signals. Yet still, the voices continued.
couldn't be more excited.
Second point, the radio was switched off, and though the voices were going through. The third and main point, that the tube or the valves of the radio were totally removed. Still the voice were going through. So you tell me how it's possible.
Thank you for all your hard work.
In the mid-1990s, in the tiny English village of Seoul, one of the most remarkable experiments ever attempted in communication with the dead took place in the cellar of this house. The Seoul experimental group who conducted these experiments consisted of Diana and Alan Bennett, two of Britain's most accomplished mediums, as well as organisers and investigators Robin and Sandra Foy.
Hi, hello there.
Nice to see you.
For 5 years, twice a week, the group would meet in this tiny cellar. Here the Bennetts would go into trance, allowing what they say were the voices of the dead to speak through them.
Yes, we hear.
Hello. Come on, friend.
Come on, friend.
We can hear you starting.
Some of the initial experiments involved photography. These began conventionally enough, with the Foys being told to load a film into a camera and place it on the table. But after this, things began to get very strange.
We heard the camera moving round over our heads, and clicking and being wound on by spirit.
In total darkness, so that in reality, nothing should have showed up on the film. But when the film was developed, there were amazing pictures.
In the next experiments, the Skoll group say they were able to create these images not only in total darkness, but without the use of a camera.
We were asked by the Spirit team to put a totally unopened Polaroid 35mm film just in its plastic container. If the Spirit team felt that they'd achieved a result, we were asked to develop it.
This could be done immediately in a special processing machine.
How do you explain it was there, you know?
In order to counter accusations that they faked these images, the group invited independent investigators to select the films. Therefore, the group allowed their experiments to be monitored by a team of scientists and paranormal investigators from the Society for Psychical Research, or SPR, based in London. For over a century, the SPR has specialised in examining paranormal phenomena in an unbiased and scientific way. Among its members have been some of Britain's most accomplished scientists, including a dozen Nobel laureates. Its investigators have exposed many fake mediums. They are not easily fooled. To preclude the possibility of fraud, these scientists were allowed to inspect the cellar and all its contents before and after sessions. All participants had to empty their pockets and leave their belongings outside. The cellar had only one entrance, and this door was kept locked during all sessions. Despite these precautions, the incredible events at Skoll continued unabated, and the SPR investigators reported what they saw in graphic terms.
We saw coloured lights, we saw materializations, we had direct voices, that is, spirit voices talking from the air. We were touched by the spirits. We saw a whole range of phenomena which could not be mistaken by three investigators such as ourselves.
In the spirit of openness, the Skoll group allowed more investigators to scrutinise their sessions. These included leading scientists from several disciplines, even a professional magician. One of the scientists was the internationally renowned biologist and author, Dr. Rupert Sheldrake. One of these controls involved all participants wearing luminous wristbands. These bands were attached with Velcro, so they could not be removed without attracting attention. To eliminate any possibility of hoaxing, the scientists brought their own film and locked it in a specially designed security box.
The box was held in the hands of the investigators so that no one could get at it. And then immediately afterwards, we would take it out of the box ourselves so that no one else touched it, and then develop it ourselves in a special machine.
Despite all these precautions, the experiments continued to produce the incredible images seen here.
They were able to achieve, etc. Well, the total number of upports that we had during the experimental sessions was about 80 or even more. Whilst we were sitting here, this object would arrive, just materialise, and arrive on the table. But as it arrived, that's the sort of noise it would make.
But the appearance of these upports are not so easy to explain away. These newspapers arrived in pristine condition, despite having originated in the 1940s. With the medium in trance, the camera crew were astonished when, out of nowhere, they felt these flowers falling on them. With the lights on, people reacted in amazement at just how many flowers had appeared.
This one is gone in his head.
This woman said that a single red rose was apported into her hand. She was also convinced it came from her dead son, because every week, she told us, she placed an identical flower on his grave. As impossible as it sounds, could this rose really have been sent from the other side? But could quantum theory explain one of the most shocking experiments conducted at school?
This particular experiment was perhaps the most important experiment of the whole series.
Previously, we showed how visitors reported seeing these balls of light appear before them.
It's like fireworks!
On this occasion, one of them flew inside a large quartz crystal.
The crystal then levitated. We could see it glowing, and then descended into a Pyrex bowl. Then Arthur Ellison was invited to pick it up. He picked it up and satisfied himself that it was there and it was glowing, and he put it down again. He was asked right away to pick it up again. He tried to, and his fingers closed right over it. It had dematerialized.
There's nothing there, yes, it looks the same, but there's nothing there.
Then he was asked to pick it up again, and it rematerialized in his hand.
Oh, I can feel the crystal now.
Now this dumbfounded him. This is what finally convinced him that this was real, because it couldn't have been faked in any way. And he had his head right over the top of the bowl in order to ensure that no hand or no instrument could interfere with it.
But what does this remarkable demonstration tell us about what might happen after death?
The spirit team told us that the experiment with the crystal in the bowl gave a good example of what happened when we die, in that the essence of the crystal remained even when the physical part of the crystal had been removed. Our bodies represent the physical part, but the essence of ourselves remains the same. This, if you like, can be termed the soul.